of the toughest tasks in this world has fallen upon my shoulders to moderate a panel so big, and all of them, experts, heads of sustainabilities in so many companies across industries. It's going to be perhaps the toughest thing I've done. But let me begin with Taruna, the only woman in the panel. So broadly what we are going to do is so in the next 45 minutes to 50 minutes kind of time frame, we'll try and come to each one of you twice. First of all, to broadly take your views on larger trends that you see emerging across your industries when it comes to this particular aspect, right? And how do you look at those changes? And then secondly, we'll try and understand from you, based on your own background, perspective, profile, or experience, what is your specific take on those things, right? So that's very broadly the idea. So let's see where we where we end up. So Taruna, let me begin this conversation with you. You represent Nestlé here. It's a household name. A very, very big company. So when we're talking about things like governance on some of the crucial topics like business strategy and its alignment with sustainability. First of all, to begin with, a large corporate like Nestlé, how does it look at this topic? What happens there, which something that you can share with us that's on the lines of alignment of these two very critical things. As business leaders, you have to manage strategy, growth, etc. But at the same time, you also need to align those goals with the larger net zero imperative and sustainability imperative, etc. So what is the thought process like?
So I'll be very precise. Thank you so much for the question. And we are obviously one of the largest, or maybe the largest FMCG in the world. We have around 400 plus, in fact, to be precise, 447 manufacturing units in 85 countries, and we are present in 196 countries. So this obviously commitment, we have done our baseline in 2018 on our what is the emission, from where the emission is coming. We have an emission wheel, and we have seen that from where the emission is coming and where we need to put in our effort. To do that, we started our journey in 2020. We have set up a big governance around how we are going to drive sustainability and net zero. We have taken a target of 2050 SBTI approved target, as this room will understand. And the transformation journey started that we really need to look at, from profit to prosperity. That was kind of at the center of, or at the core. And we created governance around where we are having the maximum emission. So we created, a kind of a business case for sustainability, and we have created task forces on specific, pillars of our interest, or our, where we are seeing that maximum emissions are happening. We also parallelly set up some internal carbon price, which we call it internally NIV, where we need to invest in terms of mitigating our emissions. This is supported, this is like we have integrated it to the business at the core. The sustainability team, as you all will understand, is very small, whether it's in the center or, we are operating in 3 different zones. So if you look at the zones and the markets, we have very small team on sustainability, but what we have done an internal capacity building and created a cadre, a sustainability cadre across business units. And then these business unit cadre are meeting operationally, weekly, with the zone monthly, and that's how we are driving our sustainability agenda. And we are monitoring, because we all know what we want to, we need to manage, we really need to monitor. So we are monitoring our carbon footprint on a quarterly basis, and then we are reporting that, and we are seeing that how we are performing. So in the beginning of the year, we take target, whether it is, in different segments or different pillars, and then we are trying to do that quarterly monitoring, and we have dashboards and the KPIs to monitor. And this is actually on a quarterly basis being looked by the market heads, and the CFOs at the market level, and then at the zone and the center. So that's how we are operating, and we have an operational master plan around doing these things more actively. So that's briefly about how we do it.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Taruna. A lot of method there, a lot of methodical approach to how you're approaching this entire issue. You're talking about things like target, task force, cadre, separate business unit. Absolutely fantastic, wonderful. What has it led to? Can you share something with us in terms of maybe even basic data on how you would have? All this monitoring would have led to some tangible progress, right, on emissions, for example, right? If there's anything that you can share with us, it can be, with reference to GHG emissions. It can be with reference to, the carbon reduction, carbon footprint reduction, or whatever. Yeah.
Okay, so we have seen transformation. I'll give you one example that how we have seen this as a transformation. But before that, we have taken a target by 2025. We will be 20% reduction on our 2018 baseline. So we have achieved that as a Nestlé Global. And with all the growth which we are seeing in different markets, at a center we are monitoring these targets. And by 2030 we have a target of 50% reduction on our GHG emissions. And we have been reporting this as a kind of a challenge which we have taken. I'll share one small example that how we have achieved this from India. Like for example, Moga is our flagship factory, and we are relying on dairy. We have done a dairy transformation by seeing that, okay, we have the maximum emissions in dairy in India while we have done the emission assessment. And, there we have gone to the farmer level, right? We have gone to that level that how we can really transform dairies. From the small backyard farms, how we can incentivize our farmers to set up, to move to the next level of C5 or C9 or C10 or C50 farms, like from small to medium or to large farms. And when, then we have done some kind of we placed biodigesters in the backyards of the dairy to see that, okay, whatever, like in terms of how we can transform the energy, from these biodigesters. So we have implemented 6,000 plus biodigesters in our milk district. We have worked on feed and fodder for the animals. We have done artificial insemination to have enhanced productivity from the farmers. And I can give you one example. In last 30 years, the work we have done with the farmers, today the productivity of each animal or a cattle in there is around 2,700 liters of milk in a year, which is comparable to US standards of 3,000. So if you look at the dairy transformation, what we have achieved with our initiatives of putting up biodigesters, we could mitigate around 7% or 8% of GHG since 2018 till now.
Thanks. That's a lot of progress there, no doubt about it. And we'll try and come to the more difficult aspect of how does that translate into a business case, right? But that later. I'm wondering who should we turn to next? Which of these companies does not have a target so far? So let's turn to ESL. Arvind, you have a very important portfolio there. I want to understand from you what is so ESL is part of a larger thought process within the government to drive real change on energy efficiency front. And to a large extent, it's seen as a very successful, it is perceived to be an organization that has taken very credible steps in achieving that, and that has happened. What is the, according to you, what is your view on the government's overall thought process on net zero? What is the idea of net zero? How do you look at it? Do you think the way we are approaching it as a nation, is that how it's broadly seen outside? What's if there's anything else that needs working upon, what would that be?
Perfect, thank you. I think the question raised to me is from a very broader perspective. I'll try to make a justice to it. The company I'm coming from and the government kind of thinking of, and it started nicely when you were talking with Nandita earlier. You know, Nandita made it very right. You know, the things starts from the basics, back to basics, and that's gonna help. We must have got all the ideas by 2070 net zero, by 2047 double the clean energy, by 2030 this much we need to achieve. The people have already started working towards it. One of my fellow members who is sitting here, I think Mahindra has got the target to achieve net zero by 2040, if I'm not wrong. I think Reliance has got target for 2035, or I think few people, they have already got net zero targets. More aggressively. Yeah, more aggressively. Like in earlier presentation, we were looking at 55% and 45%. I think yesterday only we got that news. Maybe by end of this calendar year, maybe end of this fiscal year, it will be maintained in 50-50 level. So people are aware nowadays. Yes, it is required. We need to achieve the target, and that's why offshore wind power we never heard of. It's zero in India as of now. But I think few months back, India has got the tender thing. It may not be big, very big, but I think it's just 500 megawatt, but still they are trying to do it. So that, because it is capital intensive. And recent budget, I am sure all people are aware about it because all are coming from the same fraternity. It's more than 20,000 crores of funds which got, earmarked for nuclear energy, and they are trying to target at least few small kind of reactor which they can start within few years of time. So things are happening, luckily things are happening, and things are happening in a positive way. The vision of the government is clear, private, public, all sectors are coming together to achieve the target of net zero, and I am very much sure we would be able to achieve it. A few examples I gave, be it related to nuclear, be it related to offshore energy. The same way, even for, I think few months ago again, because for transmission, for my this thing, they have allotted, government allotted few lakh of crores of rupees to take care of my transmission lines. So all these things are happening. I am very positive about it with the philosophy of back to basics to the government kind of initiative. We would be able to achieve that net zero target for sure.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Thanks, thanks, Arvind. Let me turn to Ankit. Ankit, you listened to both of them, particularly Taruna. She talked in detail, in a lot of length about, what Nestlé is doing. What is the situation in Mahindra? First of all, how would you want to comment on the corporate perspective on net zero? How should corporate leaders look at net zero? What are the chief, difficulties that you can face, for example, when it comes to, because a large part of it is also this compliance, right? So how do you look at that? Let's begin with, yeah.
Absolutely. So thank you firstly for having me. Very quickly, if I were to talk about the Mahindra Group, we are looking at multiple different sectors. So there are about 6 listed companies. We operate in about 20 different sectors. The conversation of environment, sustainability, net zero is very different in each sector. So at a broad level, we started with the idea that how do you build businesses which are planet positive? Now, what does that mean? So one is obviously looking at operational elements, which is emissions, water, waste, not just limiting to emissions, but looking at more holistically the environmental impact. But more importantly, how do you make it a part of how you do business? So integrating sustainability and climate change in the core business strategy. So what does planet positive Mahindra mean? What we are looking at is the first aspect is everything that you can do from an operational perspective, which is emission reduction, energy efficiency, renewable energy. How do you maximize that across industries? Again, different challenges depending on the nature of the industry, but also looking at the water footprint. Mahindra has been a water positive company since 2014 now. Similarly, on waste management, we are trying to ensure that all our sites, both manufacturing and non-manufacturing, are zero waste to landfill. Similarly, embedding the principles of material circularity, which is how do you use less material, low emission material, how do you solve for recycling in design of what you do. So principally, everything in your operations, whatever you can do to reduce overall environment footprint is the first part of the work. The second part of the work is how do you look at integrating it in the business itself. What I mean by that is, again, when it comes to the auto sector, everyone resonates that auto is moving towards EVs. So there's a bunch of things happening, especially in the three-wheeler ecosystem and the four-wheeler ecosystem. But if I also look at other industries, we have Mahindra Holidays, which is a resorts company. There we are looking to see how do you create a proposition for sustainable resorts and do sustainable holidays. So net zero resorts, again, efficiency on water, air, emissions, etc. Jumping to real estate, similar philosophy there. There's a big play in the renewable energy sector between multiple companies. So that's the broad idea.
If I were to book in a net zero resort, would it be would it be what?
It's actually quite
30% costlier or what?
No, it's not costlier. So that's the other thing that I would, I would sort of break the myth, is that all climate action, sustainability action can broadly be bucketed into three categories. The first is where both economics and environment go hand in hand. So efficiency, anything to do with energy, generally there are enough things you can do where you will save money or be cost neutral, let me put it that way. There's enough to do there. The second bucket is where it may not make financial sense, but regulations play a part. So most things around waste management, hazardous waste, extended producer responsibility, those are in the realm of you will do, and eventually most people will do that because regulations are maturing in that space. And then there is the third area where in the short run, a business case may not be there, but if you take a slightly longer term view, you need to work on those. So anything that we do, let's say with our supply chain, those are the kind of areas where you have to take a slightly longer term view that investments in that space will pay out in the longer run. So I think generally speaking, it makes business sense to work in sustainability, and it's not an expense. It's how you look at the returns.
Does it also lead to generation of data across all these parameters, and how do you monitor that?
No, absolutely. I think it's a very standard saying, what you measure is what you'll act on. So across all the operational parameters, where it comes to emission data, when it comes to water data, waste data, etc., that is being measured. There are targets for it. SBTI, someone mentioned. So you have to track data for it. But I think internal data tracking is honestly the easier part. It's more to do with now the external data tracking. So scope 3 emission, there it's a more evolving and challenging space. How do you ensure that you get more data from your supplier ecosystem? So in our, let's say, manufacturing businesses, auto farm, etc., there are probably more than 1,000 suppliers. So how do you try and bring a lot more data from your supplier ecosystem and see how can you make a difference? Those are the more challenging areas where things are still evolving, but very much a area of focus as well.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Ranjan. Thanks, Ankit. Ranjan, if I can come to you, he's talking about data and ESG data right now. Can you help us understand what is the importance of integration of all of this ESG data that he's talking about with net zero targets, right? How does it help a company? How is it measured? How is it, what does it lead to?
No, sure. And thanks, Sandeep, for that question, and thanks for having me here. I'll tell you purely from our perspective. We look at the fundamentals, very fundamentals of all these things. And when we talk of ESG as a framework, it's a very strongly data-driven framework, right? It's very logical and very scientific, right? Which just not help us taking a right decision, an informed decision with right and measurable data. It also helps us measuring different initiatives which we have or which has arisen out of the decision we have taken. And it doesn't stop there. It also helps us at the end when we have to measure the impact of the decisions which we have taken right from the beginning. So instead of making it more technical, instead of making it more complex, we look at it that ESG framework, which is heavily data-driven, helps us taking a very informed decision, right? Whatever decision we take and whatever data we get out of that.
Give an example.
I'll give you that, and that doesn't stay there, right? When we talk of a composite ESG framework, at one piece it works or helps us in having a very accurate, measurable, reliable data, and at the other hand, it also helps us short of aligning ourselves with the international standards or the frameworks which has been created for different areas. So that's the composite ESG framework. That's how we look at it, right? If you give an example, no, especially of ours, no, in SKF, no, if you take the example of our net zero journey, I mean, we largely monitor three elements, no, when we want to see how well we are progressing in this journey. One is for sure carbon emission, right? Second is our efficiency. And third is for sure the renewables, no, how are we converting the renewables? All three parameters, when we look at it, no, we have aligned all the measurables very clearly with the global standards we have, no, be it your RE 100 guidelines, be it your ISO 50001 guidelines, or be it your GHG protocols, no, all these gives you guidance as to how should you develop the measurables. The time we did those alignments and the time we start making our sort of data piece a bit intact, no, more than anyone else, it helps us to take the informed decision. That's the fundamental, right? That gives us, that puts us in a better situation, a better position to assess all the decisions, all the progresses, all the impacts, no, from all the corners, right? So from anything else, the better benefit we get is we are confident that whatever decisions we are taking, that's a very informed decision. For sure, it has some impacts further also, right? A lot of stakeholders like your customers, your shareholders, your investors, they always build a high confidence on the way you are progressing. So integrating your, and just not confined to your integrating your net zero targets or strategy with ESG framework, it works for everything, no? It works for everything, right? So that's how it helps us as well. I mean, and we have taken some small steps, fundamental steps to really make it more deeper.
Sure, we'll discuss that. Coming to you, Mr. Shrivastava, you represent RIL, right? Definitely a leader across segments. What is RIL's perspective on alignment of business strategies with net zero goals?
As at a RGL, everybody knows that we are fully committed of the net zero alignment, and our MDA and chairman is already, as he has told rightly said, that we have already committed that to 2035 we have to go for the net zero. Even the part which has been gone as a circular economy, that is also we are working aggressively. We have taken lot of initiative for the energy efficiency, and as well as the circular economy, as well as the solar plantation, and almost we have gone through the details which has to be required for the environment, social and governance. We have our all energy management system. So we are working energy policies, we have a climate policies, we have a environment policy, and we have a IMS also, integrated management system recently we have taken. And while we are going as a follow 4 Rs, reduce, reuse, recycle and recover. For example, we are investing in better ways to manage telecom waste, as well as like use batteries, cables in leftover fiber, and waste into clean energy and help us move closer to our sustainability goals. Even with innovation and stock commitment, we believe that we can reach these goals. As last year, this SBTI commitment, which has been approved for the Reliance Jio, that we have taken in 2019 and 2020. That was the first year for us in the CDP. But last year we have reached in the A grade, which is higher than in the Asia. No telecommunication company has reached over there where we are. And CDP rating is itself is a milestone where we have reached over there. And this year also we are working as a fully committed for the energy as well as waste, and even this, we are never thinking is a waste is a waste. That waste we are using as an energy part. Even TDD division where we are working, time plus division in morning 2 to 5 hours as 23,699 all individual solar, the towers are there that has been solarized. And apart from that, we have completed a 35 megawatt the Bidar plant at Karnataka, and another Bidar plant is working, and we are hope so commission very soon. So these all part we have taken. Even the part which we have taken total this year is 1,655 metric ton of non-hazard waste, which was recycled by RGL, and we have used as energy. And Reliance Jio has solarized which is 23,600 sites of the through distributor solar system, generating 2,18,825 megawatt hour per year and reducing emission by 59,327.27 ton CO2 annually. This help our telecom sites sustainable and reduce diesel dependency. Additional, the part which has been minimizing of the strategy, RGL recycle, that part also, and we are working at the circular economy future and deploying energy efficient network equipment, which is really going to take reducing energy efficiency and taking the optimization of power consumption across the telecom tower and data center. And energy saving technology that dynamically turns off the time division took less morning 2 to 5 a.m., which nobody has taken, which we have reduced. And at now in the net zero roadmap, we have done this total energy saving of the final year 23-24 was 1,02,581 megawatt, which is only energy efficiency program, nothing else. Even as a part of net zero roadmap, RGL actively contributes neutral carbon substitution, that is RGL undertook plantation 7,945 trees on this year only, and in just in a 2.5 month is at solar site in tower site, and 1,614 trees has already planted within a month. So that initiative we has taken.
Yeah, thank you. There was a really long list, by the way.
Told only minimum part.
No, that's fair enough. Taruna, let me turn to you again. So two things, you're saying, if I heard that right, you were saying that in your case, the target has already been achieved, right?
So target 50% will be achieved by 2030.
By 2030? Oh,
yeah, but
okay.
the challenge with FMCG is that our supply chains are very fragmented, because we are relying more on the agriculture sector. And as we have seen, obviously the emissions are coming from the energy sector, and the focus has been energy sector. So we really need to divert our attention towards agriculture sector. Under the NAPC mission, obviously agriculture was one of the pillars. So that was a challenge.
So that's what I'm trying to understand. If you can simplify that for us. So when a company like Nestlé says that I have a target, you talk about net zero target, right? I have a net zero target by, let's say, this year. You are essentially saying that amount of emissions that your activities are leading to, throwing into the atmosphere, is going to be equal to what you're drawing in from the atmosphere. Am I right? That's how it is?
Yeah. So for example, like if I look at my net zero target, that's some date which we have taken. But if you look at the emissions, right, scope 1 and scope 2 is something which is achievable, which is just 5%, right? But 95% of the emission comes from upstream and downstream, right? And that's what is where the challenge is.
So how do you measure? Ultimately, how are you measuring? When you're able to say that half of the target will be achieved by 2030,
okay.
How exactly is that measurement done?
So how we are trying to do that, for example, sustainable sourcing, if I may say so, we are into coffee, we are into Maggi food, and we are into nutrition. So what we are trying to do, whatever cocoa we are sourcing, we are saying we are sourcing 100%, RS certified, or responsible sourcing, or sustainable cocoa in our supply chain, right? So we are going to regenerative agriculture. We are also seeing that whether it is feasible to do addition, the carbon to be, organic carbon to be added, or the emissions we can do a carbon capture in terms of in the soil. So those are the things which we are trying to do at the farm level. We are doing 100% sourcing of 4C certified coffee, which is like sustainable coffee. So we are trying to do all the sourcing sustainably. That's what we are trying to do. We are trying to enhance circularity wherever possible. We are looking at what are the categories of scope 3 which we can look at, whether it's logistics, transportation, all that, where we can do kind of electric mobility or adoption of electric, ways in which we can reduce our emission. So we have, I think, broken down our emissions upstream and downstream into the focus actions which we need to take in next 2 to 3 years to mitigate our supply chain emissions, because that is the biggest for us. So we are trying to do things, few things simultaneously, and to see that, okay, how we can really move forward. But scope 1 and scope 2 is everything in control for everyone, I think.
Yeah.
And the scope 3 is the biggest for most of the companies.
Yeah. The difficult question now, which is, does sustainable cocoa make a strong business case?
Not at the moment right now, because a business case, we have to make a business case of sustainability, and we have taken as Nestlé, we have decided that we'll make a business case, but when it comes to, there is a premium which the companies are paying, and we just need to see that how we can valorize sustainability in the businesses. We need to make consumers aware of the products, that it is responsibly sourced, what is coming from farm to fork is all responsibly made. So those things we need to move the needle right now, and we need to see that, okay, there are some stories which need to go to the consumer, and consumer need to be adopting these and willing to pay that premium which sustainability today wants. It's the action towards the planet which companies can't take alone. We want really the consumers to be with us in that journey.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Arvind, what is, when you look at the kind of work that ESL has done, or the kind of products we are working on, and there's a lot, in terms of business development that happens in ESL, right? So what kind of, what are the specific initiatives of ESL that you would say align with a larger, net zero kind of goal?
Sure. Just to come in between, because I think we were talking about that net zero thing. I think Infosys has already achieved net zero, I think 5 years ago, if I'm not wrong, right? Yeah, not net zero, because I was reading somewhere it's net zero. I may be wrong. Yeah, coming back to my company, where I'm coming from, and I think before your earlier session, after this thing, Nanta, Saurabh was there in ESL earlier. And this company got started 15 years ago, when there was already companies in the power companies in the market. NTPC is there, Power Grid is there, REC is there, PFC is there. I mean, all companies, well-established companies are already there. Why this company was required? This was just to take care of energy, efficiency and service, as the name indicates. And they basically, what they did when they started, and something called Ujala, and suddenly the LED bulb or LED tube light that used to cost more than 500 rupees those days, if you remember by any chance, now it's kind of 40 rupees or 50 rupees or 60 rupees. Why this price has come down so drastically? That was due to this company. They transformed all this concept of LED lights with the help of this something called Ujala, and then Ujala was also there from government side, those initiatives. So this Ujala thing, and we distributed across India, it was more than 37 crores of bulbs and tube lights. And in one of these case studies of International Energy Association, they made one case study also on this particular thing. And this was the company, it was, pioneer in doing this efficiency related task. In case you Google it, or maybe you ask somebody, this was the company where they started all those things related to efficiency in this energy field specifically. After that, there are so many, companies, so many organizations who have started doing something or the other. In case of Ujala, there is dedicated website also, and it's kind of saving of few thousand, I think it's 13 or 14,000 crore rupees per year, which we are saving as a nation every year due to these LED initiatives. That was one of it. And second was street lights. Again, if I'm not wrong, 1.45 crores of street lights. And I was getting into some discussion with one of my senior colleagues, and then he was telling from, ISRO, when India, we used to have that, India ka map from sky, and then you can see India is not, illuminated in a different way. But after this, having these street lights across different states, now it's different map of India, which we can look at from the sky. So that was another big thing which they did. Into this field. And EVs, electric vehicles, the first generation vehicles, so basically we promoted or initiated and pushed all the OEMs I was with Mahindra also earlier, so I am aware about all those things. So we basically discussed, deliberated, negotiated, incentivized them, hey, go for this EV vehicles, and then we consolidated our demand. And as of now, in most of the ministries, PSUs, government organizations, there's kind of more than 2,000 vehicles which are there, which are maintained by us, and they are associated with all those things. And now there are so many EVs, so many things are happening. Still, I think it's hardly 2% of this thing, though we have got target of reaching 15% within 2 years of time. Same way for EVCI, electric vehicle charging infrastructure. Though nowhere we are in comparison to developed world or even in case of China, where they have got around 20% of the charger per vehicle, for 100 vehicles, 20% they have got. But for us, it's hardly anything. We have got, I think, 15,000 odd chargers as of now. But yeah, this company again initiated and collaborated with different people, and then they did this EVCI charger also across India. Again, those days it was 500 odd chargers for all those things. And a couple of other things for a smart meter. We see simply that automated, and then one meter is coming in our house, which is smart enough to take care of reading and everything. But believe me, due to this smart meter, so many leakages in your transmission lines, your infrastructure cost. There are so many benefits due to these simple concept called smart meter. And this company was the pioneer in getting these things done in India. As of now, I think it's more than 44 lakhs of smart meters they initially installed. Now we have got some other company or JV who is doing all these things for us. And in case of solar also, though we did not do too much of things, but in case of Maharashtra, this company has got more than 450 kind of megawatt of different small and farmer intensive rooftop solar plants where they can, take that benefit, and it's happily, and it's from economy of scale wise, it's running beneficially for all those people. These are the different things. And recently, not recently, few years ago, something is called now Gram Ujala. That was again initiative from the government, and it was simply 10 rupees ka bulb of 9 watt bulb for 10 rupees, and is replaceable with 3 years of warranty, is giving some, from government grants also. And yeah, we have distributed more than 1 crore of these bulbs to the, specifically in rural area. It was for Gram Ujala, as their name indicates. And now we have started aggregating the demands from different states for e-bus specifically, and this is going to be a big thing for the country, specifically more than us. I think 15,000-20,000 buses have already been aggregated, and then OEMs have been identified, and all those things have started happening. So there are so many things. The company used to be pioneer in this specific space of public sector for ESCO model, specifically for energy efficiency. So these were small things which we were doing, small things we are targeting.
Sure, thank you. Arvind, thank you for that comment. Ankit, let me turn to you and ask you, what is Mahindra's idea of, ESG compliance? What are the key ESG compliance? What are the key aspects of that compliance, and how do you imbibe sustainability in your practices?
Absolutely. So if I were to take a more ESG regulatory and compliance view, I think we have been working on this journey since 2008. That's when we had our first sustainability report published, which is sort of a collection of everything that's required from a regulatory compliance perspective. For the last few years, we have been the highest rated company in DJSI, which is a fairly reputed S&P ESG index. There's a few more CDP, etc. we track. There's good performance generally everywhere, and not just for the parent company, but the intention or other area that we are focusing on is ensuring all group companies. So there are 6 listed companies, so one by one, both Tech Mahindra and M&M are leaders, but bringing all the others at par as well from a compliance perspective. The good part is that in the Indian ecosystem, with SEBI's focus on BRSR and more clear data and ask being there, I think the ecosystem as a whole is maturing. The other part that I would definitely add is that in case of the Mahindra Group as a whole, it's actually about 40% roughly of the company in institutional investors. So there's a lot of things that we do from a regulatory compliance perspective, as well as voluntarily on reporting and disclosure in par with global standards, and not just India. So that keeps us a little bit ahead of the game, I think. Indian ecosystem is evolving, but there's a lot of ecosystem, especially I would say in the Europe, most of the regulations are a bit more mature. So generally speaking, a very good investment to do to be transparent in reporting and disclosure, and it's a moving thing, so you can't really become the best at one go. So each year, in terms of our policies, what we have, both internally, externally, and the idea of ESG is actually touches a lot of spaces. So it's not just about the environment part, which we have been talking about, but within the social space also, it's not just against CSR, it's a lot to do with internal employees, your data related aspects, your customer complaints, etc. How do you deal with that? Then governance is a tricky subject, and especially for large companies with multiple, investor ecosystem, there's a lot to be done. So I think very holistically, we are trying to make sure that we continue to sort of invest and improve both at the parent level, but also at the different companies level.
Thank you. Thanks, Ankit. Ranjan, if you can share, SKF's efforts on net zero very briefly. What are the main, steps or efforts that the company takes to ensure that it's ahead of others when it comes to, net zero target?
No, sure. I mean, look, we are the company which has realized that, there's a big myth, which is a big bottleneck in taking sustainability initiatives. And that myth is, it's a cost center, right? And we have realized that it's not a cost center, right? And hence, the circularity and net zero plays a very critical role in our business strategy, right? I'll tell you how it works that. When we talk of circularity, and the kind of industry we are in the bearing manufacturing industry, which is highly commoditized, and highly driven by price, right? That compels us more to think as to how can we optimize sustainability to add value as a competitive advantage, and we have tried to do that. So we are not using the word sustainability as a subject to just give back to the society. That's a noble cause. We all are here for that, but we are also trying to convert that to the business gains as well, right? And circularity is playing a really critical role in that. I'll give you some of the examples there, right? Remanufacturing, that's a business model we have, right? When we refurbish the big size old bearings. Now, if you look at this business model, it's a huge potential. It still has not taken its size what it should be, right? If you look at this business model, what happens is, it's a good margin for us also, right? It's extremely cost-saving model for my customer as well. And if you look at the sustainability KPIs, this is the model which fits really perfect to the kitty of our customers. Last year, if I can tell you, we refurbished around 35,000 bearings, large size bearings, which contributed to around more than 3,500 tons of CO2 emission reduction for my customer, right? It goes to the customer. Similarly, we are trying to explore similar such models. One is Recoil. We use a tool which helps increasing the life of the coolant or the oil you use in a machine, right? So we are trying to explore all these models which are purely based on the principles of circularity to make a real difference in our business. So that's on circularity. That's absolutely on the center of our strategy, especially the kind of industry we are on. When we talk of net zero, we have done a lot on that area by exploring with experts of all the corners. If I can give you some of the outcomes, we have 6 manufacturing plants across India and Southeast Asia. All 6 plants are almost 100% on renewable energy. It's more than 95, so they all are somewhere around 97, 98%. So most of the plants, all the plants are almost 100% on renewable energy. And if we look at the efforts on reducing the carbonization, out of 6 plants, 5 plants have put their efforts to reduce we are taking to 2019 as the base. They have been able to reduce their carbon emission up to 95% if we talk of H125. So out of 6, 5 have almost reached the stage of decarbonization when we say that it's more of scope 1 and scope 2. And the one remaining factory which we have, we expect that to meet that or to achieve that status by end of this year. So by end of this year, All our manufacturing units would be almost decarbonized purely from a scope 1 and scope 2 perspective. So that's how we are looking at it. And net zero is deeply integrated in our KPI also. So when we get our annual bonuses, that's one of the factors we see, right? Have you met the sustainability goal for the year before you getting your money, right? So that's also an example how we are trying to integrate and inject in the bloods of the organization.
Thank you. Thanks, Ranjan. Mr. Shrivastava, you heard Ankit talk about ESG data. I want to understand from you, you know, RIL being a very complex and a very big operations there, how does RIL manage ESG data and the kind of regulatory compliance that is required for it? You know, these are very, very vital kind of factors to manage trust and compliance. So how do you manage that?
Mr. Sudhir, and this is really perfectly right. The transparency of the data which we have to maintain, either for the carbon disclosure project, either SBTI or either CDP, that has to be, we have to do as per BRSR, GRI, TCFD requirement. And as per RGL transparency, we are making as a, all data we have to, all are automated data, nothing to be as a manually. And the things which we are doing all third-party audit. We are taking the all data, then we are making this a completely subsequent validation. Then after validation, we are going to give the third-party audit. Then we are submitting our annual report, as well same annual report with the data which has been submitted, that has to be disclosed in the CDP also. So the part which we are carrying as an internal audit, third-party audit, and as well as in-house audit. Then after this year of the finance year, we are declaring the all data as per requirement of the BRSR and GRI. So that is one part. Even if you see, Reliance is not working as a national level. We are working as an international level. GSMI is a big known of the data and ESG disclosure which we are doing as an energy efficiency. GSMI benchmarking energy kilowatt hour per GB, that RIL consumption is a 1/3 of a global consumption. In 2023, RGL took a part of the Global Energy Benchmarking Year 4 initiative by GSMA Intelligence, which included 95 networks from 73 countries, and RGL is a number 1. So what we have to say, कि पर्यावरण केवल संरक्षण केवल दिखावा नहीं, बल्कि हर कदम पर एक सच्ची प्रतिबद्धता होनी चाहिए. सही कर्म वो नहीं है जिसको करने से परिणाम हमेशा सही हो. सही कर्म वो है जिसका उद्देश्य कभी गलत ना हो. That we are doing, and that we are always making as a transparency. जहाँ चाहे वहाँ राय. We have to work together, and we will win it.
Thank you. On that note of optimism, you know, let's you know, bring this conversation to an end. Thank you, audience, for being so patient. Thank you, panelists, for sharing your views. Over to you, Manvi.